Thank you for joining us once again on Strange Pathways. I am your host, Scott Mort. I'm very sorry this is coming out 2 days late. I had an incredibly busy weekend that mentally taxed me well beyond my breaking limit. It was rough. I'm not going to lie. It was rough, and I never, ever want to do it again. Had it not been for my lovely wife, Ariana, there, pushing me through, I don't know what I would have done. So I thank God that she is in my life. May 2001, Australia. 24-year-old Megan Liker and her husband, Andrew Mayer, got married in May, and they decided to have a baby. Now, try as they may, they were unable to conceive a child. They went to their local doctor. They sent her to the hospital. Liker underwent several tests. The doctors, whenever they got the reports back, were stunned. The couple was stunned. Liker had the body. She looked fine, but she had the body of an extremely old woman. Her uterus was comparable to that of a 60-year-old woman, and had deteriorated due to multiple pregnancies. The couple was stunned. Megan was shocked. She was never pregnant in her life. This is a 24-year-old woman. She has not had multiple pregnancies. Surprisingly enough, one of the doctors was kind of savvy to the abduction phenomena and suggested that Megan Liker get regressive hypnosis. Megan decides, what the heck, give it a shot. During hypnosis, she reveals that one time while walking through a park, she noticed a UFO hovering above her. Megan tried to run away from the UFO, but was caught up in some sort of beam and lifted inside the craft. Afterwards, Megan felt dizzy and passed out. When Megan came to, she was in pitch black darkness, total silence. She screamed, cried out for help, but no one came to her. Megan stands up. She starts to use her hands to feel about where she is, and she realizes that she's in a very, very small room. The walls, the floor, perfectly smooth. All of a sudden, light illuminates the room. Megan sees shadows. The shadows eventually become two small creatures. These two small creatures ask Megan, please stand up. These creatures, enormous heads, thin arms, legs, huge black eyes. No taller than Megan's shoulders. Completely emotionless. Megan's brought to a room that's a surgical operating theater. And then the horror begins. These creatures put Megan through a medical checkup. There are other abductees in the room with her. Left, right, above her, below her. All wearing the same clothes. Megan ends up, even after this entire hypnosis session, Megan actually makes contact with one of the women that was in the room. Kelly Beat, about 25 years old. Kelly tells Megan they need us to have children. Now, Megan, to her perspective, was on this craft a very long time. After 2 weeks, her stomach started to expand. A couple of months later, Megan gives birth to her first alien hybrid child. As soon as the baby's delivered, it's whisked away. Megan is only able to sneak a quick look at the child. They're quite similar to humans, except their eyes are much, much larger. Time goes on and on and on. 4 months is the gestation period for these hybrids. 4 months, another one. 4 months, another one. 4 months, another one. Megan soon works out that she's being detained at a base on the moon. She sees these pyramidal structures. Now, remote viewer Ingo Swann, he said that he saw bases on the far side of the moon. And look for one of my old videos, the Geophone Rock Anomaly. It's a picture, and you can find this picture on the NASA website. It's a picture on the moon that's just labeled as overexposed. But if you tweak it a bit, and I invite you to do this on your own with whatever editing software you have. Learn how to do it. Maybe you already know how to do it. But take your editing software and tweak it a little bit. And you'll see the outline of a pyramid. Megan's story, to some degree, checks out. Now, in these pyramidal structures, one was used to house women. Another one is a maternity ward for the newborns. This takes 4 years. And at that time, she gives birth to 48 hybrids. She's infertile. She's of no use to them. So Megan's brought back. And all memories of the abduction are erased. Megan had believed she had served in the army under a contract for those 4 years. But Megan has never worked for the Australian Ministry of Defence. They've never had that employee. Now, I'm of two minds of this. Maybe Megan did work for them and the record is lost. Completely possible. Even if that becomes the case, that doesn't mean this didn't happen. Something happened to this woman's body. It's completely plausible. If something has the technology to build pyramidal structures on the moon, to create hybrids, to whisk themselves in and out of this dimension, this reality, then pulling someone out of the timeline, making them a non-event in time-space for a relative time of 4 years, that's completely probable. That's absolutely probable. There have been cases. The one that pops immediately to mind was a soldier who was lost for 4 hours. The other soldiers were looking for him. God, I wish I could remember this case. But the soldiers were looking for him, and they found him And whenever they did, he had 2 weeks growth beard on his face. So is it an implanted memory? Was Megan removed from time? But it's terrifying to me. I kind of want it to be removed from time because it's terrifying to me. Losing memories is one thing, but having your memories replaced, creating an entire 4-year span or more, that's terrifying. No one wants to think that they're living for no reason. All the joy that Megan had in those 4 years, all the heartbreak she had, all the work that she went through, they didn't have her in a paradise for 4 years. In those 4 years, she felt heartbreak. She felt terror. She felt joy. And it was attached to nothing. Am I even here right now? Are you listening to me? Are you here? Or is this some fantasy that some entity is putting into our heads while we pump out child after child after child, test after test, examination after examination? Our next case is going to take us to Mansfield, Pennsylvania, December 14th, 2014, around 2:30 p.m. Now, this tale, it comes to us from the amazing phantomsandmonsters.com. Cannot suggest it more. It's fantastic. The witness was deer hunting. He has a deer stand, but it's on the ground level. It's facing north. And he's hunting in this field. It's a tractor mowed field, about 20 acres large. The witness has put his stand in the upper middle of the field. He's kind of in between a rock and a cherry tree. Now, a lot of deer hunters, they look through the scopes, binoculars, what have you. But he first sees the thing with his own eyes. But he doesn't believe what he's seeing. He sees it, but he thinks maybe it's light, maybe it's leaves. It's an optical illusion. It's pareidolia. He picks up his binoculars. They're 10 by 50s. And he looks. And what he thinks he's seeing is still there. It's very quiet. There are no birds, no wind, nothing. He sees this thing for 6 minutes. Not 15 seconds, not 20 seconds. 6 minutes. That's a long time. Now he pulls out a field notebook. He likes to go bird watching, so he carries this field notebook with him. He pulls it out, and he starts to sketch it. There's no snow. There's very little wind. It's about 18 degrees Fahrenheit. And then he starts to talk about what he's seeing. This creature, it's solid. No movable joints. It never moved. The legs looked like stovepipe, about 6 inches in diameter, and the arms are the same. The arms are ending in like a rounded shape. There's no fingers, right? But these rounded shapes, they kind of end just below the waist. The body is round as well, about 14 inches in diameter. And the head looked like a round bottom bucket that was turned upside down. where the eyes would be is this black, shiny area, 3 inches wide, stretching across the front. This thing's height, though. Because the first thing I'm thinking whenever I read this account, the first thing I'm thinking was, it's a man in some makeshift suit of armor. A reckless Kelly. But this thing is 9 feet tall. He couldn't see what the feet looked like. This entity is standing in weeds and goldenrod. He never saw it arrive. And he looked away. He looked away for a second, just seeing if there were deer. I know a lot of deer hunters in Pennsylvania. The desire to look for deer is strong. Believe it or not, growing up here in Pennsylvania, we would get the first day of deer season off. It was a holiday akin to Christmas, Halloween, Labor Day. It was a big holiday. The witness said that if it had stayed a little bit longer, he would have tried to approach it. He didn't really have any fear. The thing is, this is very similar to a case that Lon Strickler heard about before. Separate case. This is an old farmhouse in central Pennsylvania. Now, the witness has this cousin D. D is 1 year younger. And whenever he's visiting his grandparents and his cousin D, he would get out of bed very, very early. If you stayed in bed at Grandma and Grandpa's, you got a chore list. And if you woke up early and got out of the house, you could avoid that chore list. The grandparents' place, their house is on a hill. It's quite a distance from the road, and there's a long drive leading up to the car parking area. Everything surrounding them is untended meadow. And that's where Dee and the witness stood. There's a small stand of pine trees halfway down the hill, about 9 feet tall. And they see this thing. One of them said, "What is that?" They didn't know. Under the nearest pine tree was a figure. Golden metal. About 3 feet tall. Not the 9 foot, but about 3 feet tall. From the shoulders down, it was wrapped in golden cloth and extended the entire length of the creature. It looked like it was in this form-fitted sleeping bag. It wore a helmet, gold helmet. Unlike the hunter, these guys were scared, but of course they're just kids. They see it. Its profile, its side is facing them. This thing then changed its head. It did not turn its head. It did not move through, like, it didn't like go left then right. This thing changed its head. I'm imagining it's very much like the scene in Terminator where the Terminator slams the T-1000 against the wall and you see the back of the head and it just morphs into the front. The head did not move. The transformation was instant. it's looking at them. And these boys have never, ever, before or since, felt so hated. It despised them. They beat feet out of there. They bust into the kitchen and crying and screaming and saying there's a golden boy down the hill. It took them a half an hour to convince their grandfather to go down and look. That's sad. I'm sure you remember a couple of weeks ago me telling the story about my father. He instantly went out. But the grandfather waited, and there was nothing there. Nothing on the ground. Nothing near the tree. Sad. Sad. Head over to our Facebook page. I'm going to have a map up of where the Golden Boy was, and I'm also going to have a sketch up of the 9-foot-tall metal creature seen in Mansfield, Pennsylvania. July 31st, 1966, Presque in Lake Erie, Pennsylvania. 4 tourists from New York got their car stuck in the sand, which is really easy to do in Presque Isle. I've been there. Beautiful, beautiful. There's like this ruined castle there, if I'm remembering correctly. I think I'm remembering correctly. But it is gorgeous. It is heavily wooded. But these 4 tourists from New York, they get their car stuck in the sand. They were relaxing that day on Beach 6, but a little bit too much relaxing, I guess. Gerald LaBelle was sent out to call a tow truck. The others remained in the car. And at 10 o'clock, the police came by. They said, "Hey, are you all right?" And they said, "Yeah, everything's fine." We sent one of them out. Gerald, he's out getting us a tow truck. The police said, "That's fine. And we're going to check back in an hour. Make sure you're okay." About 35 minutes later, the police did return. And the group said, "Hey, there's something weird going on up there." And they pointed just above a wooded area into the sky. One of the group, Douglas Tibbetts, he went with the officers to show them this is where we saw. The other 2 members of the group, Betty Clem and Nita Hafley, they stayed in the car. Tibbetts and the policeman, they walked quite a ways up the beach, about 3 football fields worth of space. And then they hear that horn honking. Tibbetts and the policeman, they run around, they hurry back. And they found Clem and Hafley. And they said they saw this dull black shape, bigger than a man, huge head, shoulders. It was lumbering in the bushes. And then it vanished. As soon as the 2 ladies hit the horn, this Bigfoot-like creature vanished. The UFO, though, what they had seen, that weird stuff, it was an angular craft. It was shooting out red and orange lights, and it descended down on the beach. Once it got close to the beach, it shot out a beam of white light, and it was tracking something into the woods. They couldn't quite see what it was, but it was tracking something into the woods. And then soon, it takes off like a shot to the north, right after the women saw the Bigfoot. In the morning, the policemen, they came back to that beach. And they said they saw two unusual triangular marks in the area where they thought the craft came close to the land. I've often thought that Bigfoot and UFO are one and the same. I've often thought that ghosts and UFOs are one and the same. It is the same phenomena acting in different ways. And this, after I found this case, the Presque Isle encounter, after I found this, it just solidified that for me. I have never been more sure in my life that all of this is the same thing acting in different ways. Thank you once again for joining us here on Strange Pathways. Please join us over on Twitter, Pathways Strange. Join us on TikTok and Instagram, both of those places, at Strange Pathways Podcast. Come on over to our Facebook page. We're going to have a few images dealing with the tales we had today. And please, if you have something you'd like to talk to me about, please feel free. Reach out. strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. Head over to the YouTube channel. Click like, hit subscribe, leave a comment down below. Please share this with a friend. You know you've got that one friend or maybe more friends that would absolutely love this show. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. Take care of yourselves and each other.